Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the price of gas, groceries, gold, and even the value of the money in your wallet isn't changing because of supply and demand, but because a tiny group of powerful institutions quietly decided it would. This isn't fiction. This is how the world actually works. We've been taught that markets are free, that prices reflect reality, and that competition keeps everything fair. But in the global economy, the three most critical markets, oil, gold, and currency, don't move because millions of people make honest choices. They move because a few players with world-shaping power push them. When OPEC announces a production cut, oil prices jump instantly before a single barrel is touched. When major banks place billion-dollar orders on paper gold, the global price moves even though no physical gold changes hands. When the Federal Reserve adjusts interest rates, currencies around the world shift within minutes. Most people think they're watching markets, but in reality, they're watching a game where the biggest financial forces already know the next moves. And the question we must face today is simple. Who truly sets the price of the world? Oil is often described as the most market-driven commodity on earth, but in reality, it's one of the least free. On the surface, oil prices seem to reflect consumption and production levels, yet behind the scenes lies a very different truth. A single adjustment in OPEC Plus production quotas can send global prices soaring, raising the cost of transportation, manufacturing, energy, and goods across every continent. But even more surprising is this. Most of today's oil trading doesn't come from real barrels moving across oceans. It comes from massive futures contracts worth billions, created and traded by investment banks and hedge funds. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, these institutions can move the price of oil with nothing more than a forecast, a research note, or a surge of speculative capital. The world's most important commodity isn't priced by how much oil is being pumped from the ground, but by the expectations formed inside financial towers in New York, London, and Dubai. In this world, reality is only a small piece of the puzzle. The rest is power, information, and the speed at which a handful of institutions can push the market. And this is only the beginning. For most people, gold is the safest asset humanity has ever created, something that can't be printed, can't go bankrupt, and can't disappear. But that's only half the story. The other half, rarely discussed, is that today's gold market barely involves physical gold at all. Over 90% of global gold trading is paper gold, massive derivative contracts on COMEX and other major exchanges, where investment banks and financial institutions can sell gold positions worth many times more than the physical gold they actually own. With a single sell order of a few million paper ounces, global gold prices can plunge within minutes, leading millions to believe prices dropped because supply increased, when in reality, not a single ounce of physical gold entered the market. This creates a strange paradox. An asset celebrated as the ultimate safe haven has its price determined by virtual trades executed by the world's most powerful financial players. That sudden spike you see? It might not be driven by actual gold demand, but by large funds building speculative positions, and the sharp crashes? Often just institutions unloading paper contracts for profit. Gold does not reflect real-world fundamentals, it reflects the power game being played in the derivatives market. If oil exposes the influence of OPEC, gold exposes the influence of financial institutions whose actions the public rarely sees. If oil and gold are influenced by a handful of major players, then global currencies are controlled by true empires, central banks. And at the center of every financial shock stands one institution, the Federal Reserve. When the Fed raises interest rates by just 0.25%, a number that sounds tiny, Wall Street shakes. But what's far more alarming is that dozens of countries outside the US shake with it. The dollar strengthens within minutes, weakening other currencies, inflating foreign debt, and pulling global capital away from emerging markets and back into the United States. No other nation gets to vote on that decision. No one outside the Fed has a say, and it's not because the world is weak, but because the global financial system revolves around the currency the US controls. Yet the Fed isn't alone. The European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, and the People's Bank of China also send shockwaves through the multi-trillion-dollar FX market whenever they shift policy. And in this arena, there are players powerful enough to shake entire national currencies with a single large-scale short position. Some call this the natural mechanism of the system. Others call it power beyond accountability. But from any angle, the truth remains. Global currencies don't move according to free markets. They move according to those who have the power to rewrite the rules. If central banks control how money is created, then mega investment firms control where that money flows. BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, State Street, these names don't fight on TV or speak to the public, yet they hold a kind of power most countries will never have, the power of ownership. They own shares in nearly every major corporation on earth: Apple, Amazon, Google, ExxonMobil, Pfizer, JP Morgan. And through this ownership, they indirectly influence global cash flow, technological direction, supply chains, and even economic policy. When a firm like BlackRock shifts tens of billions of dollars, oil prices move, gold reacts, and national currencies strengthen or weaken simply because of one portfolio adjustment. This isn't a market, it's a hierarchy where power doesn't require elections, public speeches, or political positions. Power exists quietly inside investment documents the world never sees. And the most unsettling part? None of this is hidden. It's all public, yet almost no one realizes the scale of influence these firms hold. They don't need to become governments because they own corporations stronger than many governments. In a world where assets equals power, the entities that control assets are the ones that truly control the world. No guns, no battles, no headlines, just silent capital movements powerful enough to shape the future of the global economy. What makes this system truly terrifying isn't that it exists, it's that no one can escape it. Whether you live in New York, London, Dubai, or anywhere else on the planet, your life is influenced by decisions you don't get to vote on, don't get to challenge, and often don't even know who made them. When oil prices spike because of one OPEC Plus announcement, you pay more for everything: transportation, food, manufacturing. When gold drops because of a massive paper gold sell order, global risk sentiment shifts within minutes. And when the US dollar strengthens after a short Federal Reserve press conference, entire economies lose capital, foreign debt balloons, inflation surges, all triggered by a sentence spoken thousands of miles away from you. The unsettling truth is this: no country, no person, and no market is immune. A move in the US can shake South America. A decision in Europe can push parts of Africa into a crisis. A single order in London can send Asian currencies tumbling. This is no longer a global market, it is a web, tightly interconnected, where one pull from a central power can shake the entire structure. And the coldest truth of all, most people will never understand why their lives suddenly become more expensive, unstable, or unpredictable. They only feel the impact, never the hand pushing the system from behind the curtain. Whenever a power system grows too large, too centralized, and too one-sided, something inevitable happens. The rest of the world moves to break it, and that's exactly what we're watching today. When the US dollar becomes too dominant, when the Federal Reserve effectively influences the financial fate of every country on earth, and when big finance controls more assets than many governments, other nations no longer want to play a game they cannot win. BRICS nations are developing commodity-backed currencies. China is pushing the yuan into global trade. India is building its own payment networks. And Saudi Arabia and the UAE are beginning to sell oil in multiple currencies instead of only USD. Alongside this shift, a new financial weapon is rising: CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. This isn't just technology. It's a declaration of independence from a system they no longer trust. And beneath all of it, a deeper revolution is unfolding. Blockchain, stablecoins, and decentralized financial rails technologies that challenge a monetary order that has stood unchallenged for nearly a century. Financial news rarely says it out loud, but the truth is unmistakable. The world has entered a battle for control, a quiet war with no missiles, yet capable of reshaping global power more dramatically than any conflict of the 20th century. This is no longer just the West game. This is a contest to decide who will write the rules of the global economy for the next 30 years. There is a truth most people never want to face. Markets were never truly free. We're taught that prices reflect supply and demand, that individual investors matter, that everyone participates equally in shaping the system. But that's just a comforting story, designed to keep the crowd believing in a game they can never win. In reality, oil prices don't reflect how much oil is in the ground. Gold prices don't reflect how much gold exists. And currency values don't reflect real economic strength. They reflect one thing: the power of those who can move billions of dollars with a few clicks. The biggest players control the flow of information, the flow of capital, the psychology of the market, and most importantly, they control the narrative the world believes. When they want prices to rise, they create optimism. When they want prices to fall, they create fear. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's the operating system of modern finance. And the cold truth is that most people are playing a game whose moves are predetermined long before they enter. They think they're investing, but they're simply reacting to decisions made by forces they will never see. Market freedom isn't reality, it's a story crafted to keep the machine running smoothly. And the real question isn't whether markets are manipulated, but this: in a world controlled by power and capital, whose rules are you really playing by? When you step back and look at the full picture, the oil markets, the gold markets, the currency markets, one undeniable truth emerges: we don't live inside a free market. We live inside a system engineered to concentrate power in the hands of a few. But the most surprising part is this: despite its size, despite its influence, despite its ability to shake the world with a single decision, the system has one fatal weakness: it depends on the ignorance of the majority. The system isn't strong because it's unchallengeable. It's strong because most people don't even realize they're inside it. Once you understand how capital moves, once you understand how major institutions rewrite the rules, once you understand that prices reflect power more than reality, you stop being a spectator trapped in the chaos. You become the person who sees the board from above. In a world where everything from the gas you buy to the currency you save is influenced by people you never meet, knowledge isn't an advantage, it's the only shield you have. And here's the most powerful truth of all: you may not be able to change the system overnight, but you can change your position within it. When you understand how it works, you stop fearing volatility, stop being manipulated by headlines, stop playing a game where someone else chooses the outcome. You may not choose the rules, but you can choose how you play. And the one who understands the rules always survives better than the one who believes the rules don't exist. In a world governed by power and capital, freedom doesn't come from escaping the system. Freedom comes from seeing through it. Once the pieces fall into place, oil shaped by OPEC+, gold driven by massive paper trades, currencies dictated inside central bank meeting rooms, and global capital steered by mega funds, it becomes clear that the world isn't a marketplace where everyone competes equally. It's a chessboard where the rules are written by the same people who play the game, move the pieces, and decide who wins. This truth isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you up. Because in a system where every movement is influenced by power and capital, ignorance is the most expensive liability you can have. You don't need to fight the system, but you must know it exists. You can't control the market, but you can control how you move within it. Once you understand who writes the rules, you stop being a piece that gets pushed, you become the player who can read the board. Freedom in this world doesn't come from avoiding the game. It comes from the ability to see through the illusion that most people never notice. And once you see it, you will never look at the world the same way again.